Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. I am back today for day 9. We're going to be doing another Best in Color series video, and today we are tackling the color yellow. And by yellow, I actually mean yellow slash golds slash oranges slash rusty kind of bronzy tones. There's a lot of crossover in these groups, but I am very excited about this grouping today. I know yellow eyeshadow is not like everyone's favorite color. A lot of you out there might be intimidated by the color yellow, but I have a lot of really pretty mustardy golden tones, which I do think are pretty flattering on everyone. But there's a really good mix in here, some neutrals, some more bold colors. I'm wearing a lot of them on my eyes today, but hopefully you guys are excited about it. I can't wait to show you guys the shades that I picked out for this grouping. Before we jump into the video, I want to welcome any new visitors to my channel. Welcome. I hope you enjoy this video. If you do, I hope that you'll consider subscribing, hit your notification bell. And with that said, let's get into the yellow shadows that I picked out. Alright, so as with the other videos I've done, we're going to go in order from lightest to darkest, and we're going to kick things off with this shade right here from Sydney Grace. I feel like Sydney Grace often makes an appearance in the first two shades because I love her light shimmery tones so very much, but the one I'm going with for this grouping is this shade right here. This is the shade Hidden Treasure. This is a beautiful, beautiful yellow iridescent kind of gold. I would say it's like a white with a really strong yellowy gold shift. This is a really interesting shade and a really fun one. Here is a live swatch of it right here. Actually, let me turn my lights down just a little. Hopefully that helped a little bit. So here's the shade Hidden Treasure. I love this one. This is a really fun shade. I don't know how the iridescence is picking up on camera. It has a really interesting flip to it. It's a really strong gold flip, but I love this color on my lid or as an inner corner highlight. It's really fun. If you're into golds, this is a really different kind of gold because it does have that kind of duochrome effect to it. But what I love so much about this one is when you do pair it with yellows and oranges, it really picks up the gold kind of yellowy shift in it. But you could certainly use this with just about anything, especially if you're just using it as more of like an inner corner shade or just on the inner part of your lid. I'd say it would go well with any warm kind of neutral tone or any sort of green. This also looks really great with green tones. Very fun shade and very nice and bright, which I always like to start out with something that's very bright and reflective for my lid. The next shade I picked out is actually somewhat similar to this shade, but it has a little bit of a different shift to it and it's a little bit deeper. And that one comes from the Tribe palette by Juvia's Place. I know this palette has sadly been discontinued. I was a little late to the party getting this palette. The shade that I am picking from this palette is this shade right here. This is the shade Coral. Let me just show you guys how this looks, and let me actually show it to you next to the shade Hidden Treasure. So here are those two shades side by side. I know on camera they might look very similar. This one just has a little bit more gold, and I would even say of a green tone gold to it. It is also a little bit deeper, but it is as equally as reflective as this one and also a little bit darker. So here is a swatch of the shade Coral. Another really fun and interesting shade. Love pairing this one with greens or with yellows or with browns. This whole palette honestly is really, really fun. I am so sad that they discontinued this one. I think it might be one of my favorite Juvia's Place palette. Like, this is climbing up through the ranks in my Juvia's Place palettes because every time I use it, I really love so many of the shades inside here. And I just love the iridescence and the shine that this one gives. Very comparable in formula, I would say, to some of my Sydney Grace shades. And you guys all know how much I love those. So we have a couple yellowy golds out of the way. I wanted also to pick something a little bit more orange or peachy in tone, and for this I swatched a lot of different shades, but I ended up going with this shade from the Tati Beauty palette, and I'm talking about the Metallic Story shade. So that's this one right here. I really love the Tati Beauty metallic formula. It reminds me a little bit of the Persona formula. It's reflective, but it's also a little bit more smoothing or mature eye friendly. Doesn't emphasize texture quite as much. This is a lovely, soft kind of orangey peach. I really love this shade on the lid. If you don't like really bold oranges, this is a really good option because it does have like a softer, kind of more pinky peach undertone to it that just makes it so flattering. A little bit more neutral, which I do love. I love throwing bold oranges into my crease, but I don't really like a bold orange all over my lid. I typically like to go with something a little bit softer, and I just felt like this was a perfect addition to the other shades I've selected today. And I do really love this formula. It's fantastic. I so wish that Tati would come out with another eyeshadow palette because I really do love this one, and I was very looking forward to seeing more from her. All right, we're getting into my mid-tone yellowy oranges, and I have 3 that all come from the same palette. When I decided to do a yellow, gold, and orange grouping, I knew that these 3 shades would probably all be in this grouping, and even after swatching all the other comparable shades in my collection and throughout other palettes, palettes, all three of these shades still stood out. None of them were knocked out by the other oranges and yellows that I really love, especially mid-tone oranges and yellows. They all come from the Natasha Denona Sunrise palette. Love this palette so much, but I love these three shades right here so much. They are super bold, super intense, but very, very fun, and just the kind of colors I love to throw in my crease if I want to do something a little bit bold. That's where I usually like to go bold, is in my crease. I usually like to put something kind of interesting in my crease and then something neutral all over my lid or in my outer corner. So the first one I'm picking is this shade right here. This is the shade Morning. This is the shade that I'm wearing up through my crease. I'm not sure if you can really distinguish between the other shades that I have, because I actually have two other shades in my crease and outer corner as well. But as you can see, this Morning shade is just really fun. It actually reminds me a little bit of the Anastasia Beverly Hills Orange Soda shade, but this one has more yellow in it, whereas Orange Soda has more of a creamy orange. This is more of like a creamy yellowy orange. So here's a quick little live swatch of it. I also think this one has a lot more richness and pigment in it. That's one of the reasons these three shades especially, they are so richly pigmented, like in the very best way. They're easy to work with though. They blend like a dream. Next in line is another favorite of mine, is this one right here. This is the shade Carnelian. Is carnelian a flower? Because this kind of reminds me of the color of a carnation. Aren't those the orange flowers that you're supposed to plant in your garden beds? That's what this shade reminds me of. It is super bold. It's like a soft neon orange. I just love this shade so much. Oh, it is so much fun. I have this shade in my outer corner right here, just up through my crease. That's kind of that bold orange that you're seeing is coming from this color right here. Something else is giving me this depth right here that we'll get to in just a little bit, but nothing in my collection could come close to the boldness of this. But it's bold in the way that even I like. I don't know exactly why that is. I mean, I'm normally not someone that goes for really like neon tones and colors, but I make an exception for this color for some reason. I don't know if it's because I have blue eyes and a warm undertone. I feel like this color looks relatively good on me, and that may not be true for everyone. I know a lot of you have mentioned that you don't like the way yellows or oranges look on your skin tone or your eye color, or just for your preferences. I really like it. I think it really brings out the little bit of blue that I have in my mostly gray eyes, and I just think it's a fun color. Maybe it's because it's the color of sunshine. It puts me in a good mood. I don't know what it is, but I do love this one. Next is the shade Citrine. That's this lighter lemony yellow right here. I love this one as well. It reminds me a little bit of Carnelian. They're similar to each other, but this one just doesn't have the orange base that Carnelian has. Here's a look at it compared to the other two. Hopefully you guys can see the subtle differences in these three. I know they are similar, and I debated throwing something else in here instead, but I just like these three shades. I wanted to include all three of them. Here's a quick live swatch of it. Very nice mustardy lemony yellow. Here's Carnelian beneath. You can see how much more orange this one has in it, so they are quite different. So those are the three Natasha Denona yellows I had to include. I consider them to be like the yellow superstars. I could not do a yellow or gold tone palette without those three shades. Let's move on to a couple of shimmers. First off, this one right here. This comes from the Persona Identity 2 palette, and it is this yellow right here, which is the shade Unique. I do have a similar yellow to this that's in the Anastasia Beverly Hills Riviera palette, but I like this one better. I think the formula is just a little bit better. The one in the Riviera palette is just a little bit more dry and flaky. I really love Persona's shimmer formula. It is really reflective but still smoothing at the same time. Very easy to apply with a finger or with a brush. I really love pairing this shade with something lighter, and that's actually what I have done today. I did put a little bit of this shade on the outer half of my lid, then I blended that lighter shade from Juvia's Place into it and kind of overlapped it, and I just love that seamless combination that makes. It also makes it a little bit brighter, so if you don't like this strong of a yellow all over your lid, try putting it just in the outer half of your lid and then pairing something a little bit more soft or bright or neutral on the inner part of your lid, and I think it makes a really good combination, a good way to work in the color yellow. For the next shimmer, we're jumping back over to a shade by Sydney Grace, and it is this shade right here. This is the shade Aztec Ruins. As you can see, this one has a little bit more orange and copper in it, but I still think this is more of an orange than a true copper. It has a pretty strong orange shift to it, which is why I'm including it here rather than in with the browns. Again, you guys, I feel like there's some crossover in some of these groups. This is a beautiful, beautiful shade. I love these types of shades on my lid. I would say I reach for this type of a shade even more than this one right here. But once again, I think this could be a beautiful pairing. I think pairing yellows and oranges together works so well. I'd say a color like this is a great way to step into playing with color, because I do still think this is quite neutral, but it does have that strong orangey shift that's just not over the top. Back to a couple of mattes. We're kind of getting to that deeper tone range, and I love deep, warm, orangey, rusty colors in my outer corner. So you will notice a lot of these are very rusty in tone. The first one comes from the Natasha Denona Safari palette, and it's this shade right here. This is the shade Desert Date. This is a beautiful mid-tone matte peach. I love this shade because it's a soft, rusty orange that's not too dark. This is a really great transition shade as well, but you can also use some of the lighter shades in your transition. So for example, the shade Morning, let me just swatch that one next to you. This is such a great combination. So Morning up through your transition area and this in the outer corner to softly deepen things up. Such a pretty combination. I would almost say this is like a salmon color. It's very, very unique. I did not find anything in my collection that was quite like this, and I love that it kind of walks that line between something really colorful but also something kind of soft and neutral. So there's a lot of different ways that you could work this into a look. You guys know how much I love Natasha Denona's matte formula. It is really, really great. I also wanted to include in this pairing a deeper orange that wasn't too orange, that had a little bit of brown in it, and of all the ones I swatched, this is the one that I ended up going with, and it's from the Nomad palette. It's this orange shade right here. This has such a great undertone to it. It is orange, but it has just a little bit more brown in it that makes it neutral and deeper while still having that strong orange base. I kind of feel the same way about this orange as I do with the salmony color in the Natasha Denona palette. Both of them are colorful, but still a little bit neutral, and I love the combination of these two. Now in the pan, you may not think this is a very deep color, and it's definitely not super, super deep, but this is the color that I am wearing in my outer corner right here. That's that little bit of depth that you're seeing. So it does give a surprising amount of depth, and sometimes I love this level of depth, especially when I'm going with something a little bit more colorful or a little bit more bold. I think going too dark in the outer corner can maybe be a little bit too much of like a statement or a little bit too strong. And that's definitely the case with a lot of these yellows and oranges. I think it's nice to go with something that's not quite as rich and dark and deep, and that's where this color fits in so perfectly. It gives you depth, but it also gives you a little bit of color, but it's not too strong of an orange. It's not too over the top. And you all know I love the Juvia's Place formula. So next up is one more shimmer that I wanted to include. Something, now this one I think could be debatable because it does have some brown and some red in it, but it's this shade right here from Sydney Grace. This is the shade Desert Sun. This I would say is kind of a true copper, but I wanted to include it today because I just think this type of a shade pairs so beautifully with oranges. I love a copper toned eye on occasion. I especially love this one because it has a very subtle pink undertone or shift to it. I mean, I shouldn't say shift, but it just has like a soft pink undertone that makes it a little bit softer and easier to wear. Sometimes I think coppers that are too brassy or have that really strong orange undertone, I don't always love that look on me, but this one is just a little bit softer, and I do love this shade on my eyes. It is absolutely stunning. It goes beautifully with the oranges that I've included. I think it would be beautiful even with some yellow up in the crease. I found a lot of shades in my collection that were similar to this one. I mean, pretty much any neutral palette out there will include a warm coppery bronze like this, but this one was just a little bit different, and I do like this one just a little bit better. And that means we are down to my last shade, and this one I'm really stretching here, you guys. This one I think may even have more red in it than orange, but it is definitely an orange tone. It comes from the BH Cosmetics Naughty palette. So this shade right here, this is the shade Pantone. In the pan, this looks like just a bold orange, but wait till you guys see this swatch. I mean, this really stood out to me when I was swatching the deep matte oranges throughout my collection. This one just stood out like a, I shouldn't say sore thumb because that sounds negative, but like a good sore thumb. Like it stood out amongst everything else that I swatched. Just look at this shade swatched on my arm. I mean, does that not just like make you say wow? It is so, so impressive. Let me give it a little swatch down here. I tried wiping these shades off, but out of makeup remover and towel's just not working, but have a look at that. This is such a great orange. It is a very rusty red toned orange. It is very, very bold. Probably not the shade that I'm going to reach for as much as I would reach for, say, this shade right here, or even the shade inside the Safari palette. But sometimes if you're in the mood for something orange and strongly orange, I mean, I don't think this shade can be beat. That is just intense and so, so beautiful. You guys know I love this palette. I love the BH Cosmetics formula. Their mattes are great. And that color right there, I can't get over that. I mean, the moment I swatched that, I was like, oh, wow. And with that, you guys, that is it for my top 12 yellow/gold, orange/rusty colors in my collection. I love how these look. Just have a look at all these colors together. I think they are so beautiful. And I would challenge you guys, if you have yellows in your collection, if you are intimidated by oranges and yellows, try working them into some neutral looks and see what you can come up with. Because sometimes a yellow look can be a miss. Even myself sometimes will do some yellows on my eyes and think, I'm not sure I like how that looks. But sometimes it can be a real hit, like this one today. I think this looks amazing. matching. And maybe it's just a matter of my shirt matching, because you know that will win me over every time. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Even if you're not into oranges and yellows and reds, hopefully at least seeing these warm tones swatched on my arm brought a little bit of joy and sunshine into your heart. It definitely does mine. Sometimes just swatching shadows on my arm is all I need to cheer me up. But that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you guys for watching this series. I know we've been swatching a lot of eyeshadows. Trust me, we will get back to talking about things that are not just eyeshadow related. Although we all know the eyeshadow videos will never fully go away. But I appreciate you guys watching. I hope you guys are doing well. Hopefully you are enjoying getting ready for the holidays. Those of you that are celebrating. We have a couple more days to go in my 12 days of Christmas, and then some other fun videos coming up next week. I'm doing my best of 2020 series. I so look forward to those videos, and then January will be a full month of nothing new. So if that sounds like fun to you, make sure that you are subscribed. But that is it for today. Thank you guys again. I will see you all tomorrow in my next video. Bye.